Ah, video games. They go through a lot up to their release date. There's the concept, then design, production, and more, I'm sure of it, until finally a game gets released into the world, where hungry gamers hunt by reading reviews and sniffing out gameplay videos on YouTube to decide just which dish they want to dine upon in the great restaurant of gaming.
Hello there, could I order the modern first-person shooter with a side of campaign, and could I ask the chef to hold the microtransactions, please?
I'm sorry, sir, but as you can see, the modern first-person shooter comes absolutely buried in microtransactions, but you do not have to eat them if you don't want to. You could just dig around inside the middle and eat the pieces you want to.
Okay, restaurant analogy aside, when a game gets released these days, it's immediately thrust into this vast sea of competition. There are absolutely tons of games being made these days, with only a certain number of humans on the planet to play them, so it's only inevitable that some fall through the cracks or get overshadowed by AAA budget advertising. Today we take a look at 7 such games that deserved way more love than they originally got, and we're starting off with Final Fantasy 15. Now hold the comments, I know what you're going to say. How can any Final Fantasy game be a victim of being underloved, right? Well, believe it or not, Final Fantasy 15 was really underloved when first released. There was a lot of negativity aimed at the game, both from new fans and long-time fans of the series. For example, long-time fans struggled to adopt the new combat system and the way magic now worked, whereas newcomers to the series struggled with the combat and the way magic worked. Okay, seriously though, going from turn-based combat to warping around the battlefield was a huge change that took some getting used to, but ultimately was a more rewarding experience because it was a much more immersive combat style. Prior to releasing Final Fantasy 15, Square Enix actually created a movie, anime series, and much more in the way of comics to tell people about these characters and their origins. If you had read and watched these things, you'd enjoy it more for sure, as I did. However, if you hadn't, I can completely understand where people struggle to really connect with the characters. There just wasn't enough in the base game to really make you love Noctis or Prompto or Brave Gladiolus or the smart, careful adult figure that Ignis was. When a game starts with these issues, it's inevitable that all the good parts about it find it hard to shine later on. For example, the summoning mechanic is absolutely colossally epic. However, it is also significantly flawed. For example, I, in my 100 hours of playing this game, have never been able to summon Titan. Once you start from there, everything becomes harder. When a new character shows up, you're wondering who he is, what's his motivation, and why is he doing so and so. Again, if you'd seen the film, anime, whatnot, you'd understand. However, when the game introduces these characters, you just feel like it's some sort of vague introduction. Fast forward to 2020 and the game has received numerous extensive updates, including additional content and even entirely rewritten scenes to address the issues voiced by fans. Heck, when I booted up the game to capture the footage for this entry, I was greeted by entirely new cutscenes that I thought I was going to encounter, and it really surprised me and made me want to play the game all over again. Square Enix have really invested in Final Fantasy 15 over the years. It was a phenomenal game back then with some very, very clear flaws, I will admit. I personally am going to replay the game pretty soon to experience all the new and overhauled content. If you really haven't yet, it is well worth your time. Next in at number 6, we've got Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
Don't go! I swear, I've got reasons.
Okay, I'll keep this entry short as I'm sure I've just lost about half of my 8 viewers announcing this. Infinite Warfare was released in less than reasonable circumstances. Now I'll be honest, when I first saw the trailer for Infinite Warfare, I didn't know it was a COD, and I didn't think it looked bad, and neither did my friend watching it. But then at the end, when we saw that it was a Call of Duty title, we knew trouble was ahead. And then we saw that they were tying in Modern Warfare Remastered, and we knew that there was a terrible, terrible time ahead. A time which resulted in it getting the most dislikes in YouTube history, if I remember correctly. Yes, they tied in the Modern Warfare 4 remaster into this game. But then you couldn't even just play Modern Warfare 4 and possibly sell Infinite Warfare if you didn't want it anymore, because you had to use the Infinite Warfare disc to access Modern Warfare 4. I've never known a game that required you to have the disc for another game in the console to play it. I have never known that, and I hope we never know it again. It was not okay. I think the developers have apologised since, but don't take my word on that. The gun crafting system was awful and designed to make you spend more money, yes, and yes, the campaign was just so forgettable despite featuring the then extremely popular Kit Harington. So why am I defending this game at all, you may ask? Well, first off, I'd like to say defending's a strong word, alright, leave me alone. Infinite Warfare did have one quite major redeeming feature, however, the multiplayer and the moment-to-moment gameplay. Usually if you're good at one Call of Duty game, you can play the next Call of Duty game for a few hours, get used to the weapons, find your feel for it, but still perform to a decent standard. However, in Infinite Warfare, there was a learning curve here. You really had to get used to the way the wall running worked and the feel of the combat, but once you did, there was actually something quite special there, quite unique to Infinite Warfare. The moment-to-moment combat was fun and fast. As far as the zombies mode was concerned, you could either take it or leave it. Personally, I think the ideas behind it were all good and sound on paper, however, in practice, it didn't really come across well. The time period, genre and aesthetic were all great in theory, however, when playing the game they came across more of a gimmick than anything else. On top of that, the characters were borderline obnoxious, but of course this is just all my opinion. Did you think the multiplayer was absolutely terrible, and did you absolutely adore the zombies? Let me know in the comments below, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. Coming in at number 5, we've got our first indie title in the form of Playdead's Inside. You may know them by their PS3 game Limbo, in which it was all very shadowy and silhouette-y and you played as a small boy, and this game starts us off in very much the same way. All we know is we are a small boy with no context of anything else except that it is dark and we need to make our way to the right of the screen. As you progress through the simple yet thick atmosphere of this game, you soon discover two certain things. This boy is sneaking into somewhere very secret and shady, but with relentless bravery, and there were lots of human bodies hanging like coats on a rail inside that truck just now, wasn't there? There's undoubtedly a lot of beauty to Inside, as well as some challenging puzzles. Apparently my brain was put to work by how I need to successfully push this thing off without dying. Nope. That was even worse. Okay, this time, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Here we go. Okay. Is it? Yep. No, it's... Yep. Yep, it's going. It's going!
Besides the complexity of running to the right and occasionally pushing things, Inside offers other challenging mechanics such as pig hopping, pig pulling, and finally, chick artillery.
Oh, thank God they're still chirping happily and think I'm their mother. It's all good, it's all good. Whew. All joking aside, Inside is a dark, rich little game with deep, thought-provoking story points that will make you gasp and ponder on the subject of life itself before the end. Let me tell you, there is something very special about Inside that you really should give a chance.
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
We're sticking with indie games for the moment, as we've got an absolute masterpiece in at number 4 with What Remains of Edith Finch. Now, if you've ever watched the videos from the talented folks over at PlayStation Access, flattery will get me everywhere, or taken a look at any lists of hidden gems recently, then you will at least have certainly heard of this title. Despite the game receiving critical acclaim, I still strongly believe this is a game that deserves way more love from the actual gamers. In the future, this is a game I would love to see selling tens of millions of copies due to the short amount of time it takes to play, the accessibility and ease of completing it, and the fact that it's only £15 new. What Remains of Edith Finch is nothing less than an enchanting, immersive masterpiece of a game. You play as, yes you guessed it, Edith Finch, the last of a long line of Finches who have had the best and worst luck as far as family trees go. Edith is returning to her family home to discover the truth behind what happened to her relatives, having been taken away from the house by her mother at a young age in an attempt to escape the fabled curse that haunts the family. As you enter the house, you'll find most of the doors sealed up, with the name of a certain family member and their date of birth and their date of passing. And it quickly becomes obvious that these dates are far too close together for what you're about to discover to be a happy tale. As you get into each room one way or another, you will then live out a few moments of that relative's life and experience all the magical, wonderful and terrible things that occurred to said relative. Some of the stories seem impossible, some are more concrete and down to earth, hitting harder on real issues, and some are left almost totally up to the player's imagination. None of this would have been possible though without the terrific voice acting. Every Finch you hear sounds and feels like they have their own entire personality and life, despite the short amount of time you get with them. Each of these small stories carry their own impact onto you as the player, so much so that every time you return to Edith to keep exploring the house, it almost feels like you've gained a whole new perspective and appreciation for what really happened here. The whole game is a touching ensemble of short stories, all culminating into this grand, tragic tale of one family, and what remains of Edith Finch. Cue the credits! Seriously though, I haven't inserted any jokes or skits into this entry, quite frankly because I don't think there's anything funny about it. This game is touching, it is heartwarming, it is heartbreaking. It is wonderful and you should definitely play it if you still haven't. I can honestly say with all certainty, you won't regret it. We're into the top 3 now, and leading the charge is Gravity Rush, a game where the core mechanic is shifting around. Look in any direction, press a button, and gravity for your character shifts in that direction.
It's not flying, it's falling with style.
You play as Kat, a girl who wakes up and doesn't know who or where she is. You're promptly thrust into saving a child from a giant shadow tentacle with a hand on the end, while a cat, an actual cat, not the protagonist, keep up, that looks like he embodies a galaxy follows close by. Are you already starting to see where this game could get confusing for new fans? Then you probably understand why the game didn't get the love it downright deserved. This mechanic was entirely new at the time and can be difficult to grasp at first, especially while controlling the camera, not to mention the admittedly dreary colour of the first area features enough brown to make you wonder if you're going colourblind. When this was initially released on the PS Vita, it was even worse, and you had to actually tilt the physical console to aim where you were going, which is about as much fun as it sounds. Only one of those is a fair criticism, and it's probably the only real one I would have with this otherwise fun and inspired video game, because once you get used to how gravity works, you can fly around in a way that feels absolutely limitless, more limitless than I've ever felt in any game before. You're running along, and then next you just decide to jump in the air and fly off, shift gravity in any direction you want. With just the touch of a button, you're flying, falling in any direction you want, and after leveling up, for basically as long as you want. There are loads of secrets hidden on every side of the city, including the bottom, and it's an absolute blast to just lift off and fall around the world at your leisure, something I discovered is not nearly as fun in real life.
Was it fun like Gravity Rush?
No.
I told you it wouldn't be, you
Besides the gameplay and falling, there is also a very unique and interesting story to unearth in Gravity Rush. You soon encounter another gravity shifter called Raven, except she's not sweet and gentle like Kat. No, she's dark and mysterious and huffs at you, showing no interest whatsoever. Does she know you? Where did her galaxy Raven come from? Are the cat and the raven somehow related? The animals, not the characters, come on, keep up. And why are these gooey monsters infesting this floating landmass of a city? Oh, who cares? This is so much fun. Whee! Gravity Rush is a fantastic game featuring a truly freeing mechanic unlike any other, filled with weird and lovable characters across a wild adventure of discovery. Each city has its own individual persona, and some of the late game areas give off the same grand feeling I got when I first walked the halls of Anor Londo in Dark Souls. It's well worth your time and well worth the modest price tag. If you haven't given Gravity Rush a go yet, for God's sakes do it.
La suis m'achever, et je crois plus affiché de wansi. Pla jujudu, plan chabiment dressa point chafé.
Our penultimate entry is again probably a game you have heard of by this point, but that's mostly due to Apex Legends' mainstream success. Before that, Respawn put everything they had into producing Titanfall 2, a game that perfected the mechanic of boosting and wall running in a video game, whilst simultaneously creating an online shooter where everyone had the ability to call in giant mech suits and the gameplay was still totally balanced. While the original Titanfall was unpolished, featured no campaign, and overall struggled to impress, Titanfall 2 fixed absolutely everything and then some. This is a game that is heavily underloved and deserved so much more. It was rare to see official reviews of this game under 9 out of 10. After all, it still has a strong dedicated fan base to this day. The reason that such a phenomenal game failed to get so much as a look in from most gamers was simple. They released it at the same time as that year's Call of Duty and Battlefield releases, the latter releasing merely 1 week before Titanfall, but not only that, it was also released less than 2 weeks apart from Skyrim Special Edition on new-gen consoles, meaning this fledgling of a franchise got absolutely silenced by the bigwigs. After all, who's paying attention to that half-flop of a giant mech shooter when they are busy being angry at Activision for ransoming Modern Warfare Remastered, Battlefield is scooping up a large new player base, and the RPG everyone loves and wants to play again is getting a shiny new next-gen release?
No one except me, apparently.
When I first played Titanfall 2, I expected to do what I've done with every COD game. Complete the campaign on the hardest difficulty to get used to the weapons and feel for the game, then hit the multiplayer. The characters were all well voiced, basic dialogue wheels and gorgeously designed levels meant there wasn't a need to constantly shove an enemy in your face for you to feel like you're enjoying yourself, and as previously mentioned, the first person wall running is so on point in this game I think it'll be a long time before someone does it any better. You play as wannabe pilot Jack Cooper, an infantryman who dreams of becoming a Titan pilot. During a mission gone wrong, you rendezvous with Titan BT-7274, a Titan whose pilot was KIA. With BT you fight off ruthless mercenaries and, well, I'll let you find the rest out for yourself. Play Titanfall 2's campaign and I guarantee you will be hungry to sink your teeth into the multiplayer. Oh, and did I mention it contains one of the best missions in FPS history in the form of Effect and Cause? A level where you get a wrist device that lets you seamlessly travel between the past and the future. Give it a try, thank me later. And our final entry is none other than Nier Automata. Nier Automata has become one of my favourite video games of all time, definitely in the top 3, and I've played a lot of video games. Looking at the gameplay from an outsider's perspective though, I can tell why people may be put off or not think this game is anything special. It looks like yet another game from Japan featuring robots, sexy women wearing overly revealing clothes and large swords. However, there is so much more to this game than meets the eye.
Like, imagine a nice round shiny pebble on top of a mountain. That much more.
Nier Automata tells the tale of a group of androids known as Yora, a group dedicated to retaking Earth on behalf of the humans, the last of which are now hiding on the moon, from the alien overlords who invaded and took over many decades ago. But it soon becomes obvious not everything is as it seems. Robots you meet that are supposed to be the military force for these aliens come in many varieties. Some fight you on sight, which is supposed to be the norm, but very early in the game, you come across some that just appear to be happy hopping around minding their own business down a stream, or some that have taken up the long lost and rightfully buried art of clowning. In Nier, your abilities are determined by the chips you install into your android brain. These range from auto-dodging chips to ones that let you run a little faster, do more damage, etc, etc. So you can completely customize the game to be as challenging or as easy as you like combat-wise. The amount of accessibility this game can boast is truly staggering. Even children could play it if not for the bloody violence and provocative attire, but it rivals if not beats The Last of Us 2 for accessibility, that's for damn sure, and you really don't hear that enough about this game. But where Nier really shines for me is the immense story quality and depth.
Now, imagine an iceberg under the mountain!
even more mind-blowing is that technically this game is set in the long distant future of the PlayStation 2 Drakengard games. If you dig deep enough and read files and data you can uncover throughout the story, you learn exactly what has happened to the world in the last few hundred years and beyond, and the truth really is shocking and fills your mind with questions and makes you want to seek these answers, even if it does mean looking into the lore of the game and reading a lot. Alongside all that, you're faced with deep and intense stories of morality, what it means to be human, and even what it means to be alive, filling you with emotion ranging all the way from downright disturbing to tear-jerking, heartwarming. If you explore all this game has to offer, and have a heart, you'll without doubt find yourself shedding a tear or two by the end. Nier Automata is definitely one of my favourite games of all time now, but that's not why it gets top spot. It gets top spot because as of May 2019, it had barely sold 4 million copies, which at the time of writing, I believe I'm right in saying, is actually less than Inside, our number 5 entry. This being a game made by Square Enix and Platinum Games, for crying out loud. The same companies that brought us Bayonetta, Metal Gear Rising, and you know, all those Final Fantasy games. But look, don't take my word for it. Give Nier Automata a chance, and I promise you, if you really give it an opportunity to charm you, it will. There's even a Game of the Year edition now with all the little extras and everything, so you can go nuts. And that concludes our list of 7 games I believe were owed way more love than they originally received. Did any of your favourite underloved games pop up in this list? Do you have a nice long list of your own of games that deserve more attention? Let me know in the comments your top games that deserved way more love than they originally got. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, leave a like because my dreams depend on it, and subscribe to see my latest videos as soon as they're released. Thanks for watching Data Vein Gaming, and I will see you next time.
I know it's a big step down from Hollywood, but I'm doing what I can. Oh, that's a better idea. Put the pillow on the damn floor. Hello there, you found me not sitting on cushions to make myself look taller. Woohoo! Humanity is stuck on the moon, and anyway, you play as this android dressed. You don't dress, you do not dress to play a game. Well, maybe you do dress to play a game. I don't dress to play a game. I'm barely dressed for this.